IMAX posting a bigger than expected loss for the latest quarter. Probably no surprise, though. This comes amid a secular shift in the entertainment industry that's seen more people streaming movies at home, and it's seen theaters everywhere closed. All that pressure has put some pressure on shares of IMAX, down by about 45% over the last year. Joining us right now is Richard Gelfond. He is the CEO of IMAX. And Richard, it's good to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Becky.
Let's talk first about the company's positioning. You've made it pretty clear that you think you're in a strong financial position and that you can weather any of these closures that we've seen around the globe.
Yeah, we do have a very strong financial position. We have about $350 million in cash. Our burn rate is about $10 million a month, even before we do more drastic things, which hopefully won't be necessary. So we're in it for the long term. We've been around over 50 years. We have a global brand. We just found out yesterday that China said that starting June 1st, they're going to start reopening theaters there. So we think we're very well positioned.
When you say more drastic things, what do you mean? What steps have you taken today, and what would be the next line of defense if you need to take more drastic measures?
Well, I don't think drastic measures will be needed, and in fact, we haven't really laid off anyone at IMAX. But obviously, when you enter a crisis like this where a global network is shut down, you minimize your costs, you eliminate marketing expenses, you do a variety of things that are just prudent. But what I was referring to is, this is all backed by science, and we'll all see where the science takes us.
That's the question. At this point, you have governors here in the United States that are starting to reopen states for business. As you mentioned, China saying that it's going to be reopening schools and looking at theaters to open those up again. But I think the real question is, will people come if they're open? What kind of measures will you take at the theater? Are people going to be sitting next to each other? Is there going to be separation there? How do you try and make sure that customers would feel comfortable coming back?
Well, China issued some early guidelines, and what they said was they were going to do some social distancing measures, whether it's every other seat or every other row, or perhaps if you come with a family of four, there's some vacancies on the side of you. So I think early in the going, there are going to be some social distancing measures, and certainly we, like others in the industry, are going to try and do special things to make people feel safe. And we haven't designed all of those yet, but certainly we're looking at extra sanitary care in the theaters, looking at, the possibility of more time between shows so you can clean theaters extra, things like that. But it's going to be largely up to the governments, I think, when they open.
Those measures don't come cheaply. If you're only selling every other seat or every other row, or if you're taking more time between showings, what will that mean for you from a profit perspective if some of those measures, let's just say, last for the next 18 months until there's a vaccine that's widely available? What would that mean?
Well, the good news for IMAX is the cost of restarting rounds to zero for us. We can flip a figurative switch because if you look at other forms of out-of-home entertainment like baseball or theater, there are large startup costs because you have to pay the talent, you have to open the stadium or the theater or wherever it goes. For IMAX, we're housed in other people's multiplex. We're a technology license company. So when they open, as I said, we just go on. So it's not that big a deal for us, and it reduced capacity. It's a very interesting thing in the movie theater business is that a successful chain for a year does about 20% capacity. So even at 50% capacity, there's a lot of room to make money. The issue is you have to shift people from just the habit of going on Friday and Saturday night to different times, but these are unusual times, and I think people will do that.
Richard, did you see the battle that seems to have broken out between AMC and our parent, Universal, NBC Universal, just with this idea that they want to release Trolls and perhaps other movies, too, and maybe not have that same sort of exclusivity? NBC Universal has said, look, it's always going to have a place for theaters, but maybe that relationship changes, not only because of coronavirus, but also just the way people's viewing habits have changed. What do you think about that debate?
So, Becky, this is a debate that's been going on for a long time, at least the last 5 years, specifically between those two companies, and I think Universal did something understandable, which is they had spent a lot of marketing money and they had a movie ready to go in Trolls, and they released it. So, everybody gets that. On the other hand, I think what AMC is concerned about is that Universal is trying to make something more out of it than it was. I mean, it's a unicorn event at a unicorn time. I think if they go back again and say this is going to change the world, that's for another day. Universal's next blockbuster movie isn't until next April. I think we just saw the frustrations boil over about the pandemic and changing business models, and I think there'll be a lot of time to work it out. The good news is, unlike that battle, which got a little bit of headlines, the rest of the industry I've never seen working closer together in the 26 years I've been doing this. The studios, the filmmakers, the exhibitors are really singing the same song in terms of how do we get it open and how do we get people back to the movies quickly.
But you think it makes sense during this pandemic to see different types of relationships like that, like what Universal did with Trolls?
I think they didn't have a choice because they had this movie that was ready to go and they spent the money, so they tried it. I think the financial results, it's too soon to say, and are mixed. I know there's been a lot written about how well it did in streaming, but on the other hand, by streaming it now, they lost ancillary revenues like TV rights and streaming rights and electronic sell-through rights down the road. So I think they tried something. It made sense. I don't think we can draw a lot of conclusion out of it. I think we have to wait and see where it goes.
All right. Hey, Richard, one quick question. When people come back, are you going to anticipate that or require customers wear masks in the beginning, like the airlines are now saying?
So we have different partners in exhibition. We're more of a technology provider on a global basis, and I think that's going to vary. So I've talked to a lot of different people, and some are saying temperature and masks, and others are talking about different seating plans. So I think it's going to vary. But I think one thing we have to remember, and a lot of people have said, because of streaming, will people go back? I don't know about you, Becky, but I've watched you guys enough to know that you're getting a little bit tired of this. And I know I've done enough streaming on my couch, and I've run through my favorite Netflix shows 3 times over. I can't wait to get out of my house. And the studies that we've read, I
can't wait to get new content, but I'm not running back to a theater anytime soon.
Well, I don't know.
I am a big fan of getting new content, but I'm going to take this slowly, and that's not one of the first things I'm going to do when I get out of here.
So when you read some of the studies, there was one in the U.S. done by someone called EDO, a market research firm, and 70% of the people said they're ready to go back, and 75% of the millennials said they're ready to go back. And remember, a lot of these movies, especially the blockbusters, which IMAX shows, those are the kinds of films millennials go to. And I think, for good science reasons, they're less at risk, and I think subjectively they feel they're less at risk. So I think you're going to see those people go back soon.